This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Thursday, August 26th. Rich Pope here with Austin Fuller, Patrick Connolly. They have our topics we're going to hit on today, and we're going to talk about food halls in Orlando and two anticipated ones that have been delayed. Also, we're going to find out about Harry Styles' concert and vaccinations on that one. And Patrick Connolly's here for his feature for Florida Fresh Air. We'll find out more about where he went. We're going to start here with Austin Fuller. We're going to talk about these food halls, two coming into the area, anticipated, but hitting some delays, and those delays are actually somewhat COVID-related. What's going on, Austin?
Earlier this year, there were food halls, one in Ivanhoe Village called the Hall in the Yard, and the other in Avalon Park called the Marketplace at Avalon Park, that were expected to open in spring. Now we're in late August, and they're not open yet, and they're now saying for both of them, they're expected to open next month in September. Both of the people behind those two food halls are two different, developers, attributed the delays to supply chain issues.
Yeah, so what are the things that they're having trouble getting? I assume it's with the construction and there's a lot of moving parts, but what is it they can't get?
At the Hall in the Yard, one of the examples the owner gave me was there was an 8 to 10 week delay in getting air curtains, which are those things on doors that blow air down when they're open. He needs 40 of them. It's a food hall. It's not just one restaurant. So you can imagine when you have a bunch of delays on getting materials, it pushes you back when you have a complicated project like this. And we've seen shortages for even stuff in restaurants that are already open, whether it's alcohol, paper goods, chemicals, and food supplies. So that necessarily wouldn't push back an opening of a food hall, but you are seeing shortages in a lot of products right now.
Yeah, as far as like something like this, there's a lot to it to open something like this, but seeing delays, even non-COVID time, wouldn't have been uncommon.
No, you're absolutely right that we've seen this a lot. Restaurants or any business says we're going to open, and then they end up having to push it back. And Justin Greeter, he's with the real estate services firm JLL, said when you're opening a signature retail or restaurant space, experiencing postponements are not and have never been abnormal. And these delays in getting kind of unique materials happened before the pandemic, so this isn't anything new. But he did say these delays are typical, but they're happening a little bit more because of these broad supply chain issues brought on by the pandemic.
Yeah, just touch on real quick the offerings. Let's get excited when it does open. What exactly can we expect at these food halls?
The Hall in the Yard is going to have 9 restaurants and 3 bars. And the food's going to range, from Southern to Indian. There's also going to be some event spaces there. The Marketplace at Avalon Park is going to have 9 eateries. They're going to have a craft brewery tap room. And they're also going to have a general store where artists and such can sell things like soap and pottery and jam.
All right, well, sounds like a good one. We'll keep an update on that one with you on OrlandoSentinel.com. You can read about his story right now about the delays. Appreciate that. We're going to move forward here to Patrick Connolly, and we're going to talk about Harry Styles coming to Orlando, but this will be the first time Amway will actually have vaccination mandates in place. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so Harry Styles, some may know him from the, boy band One Direction, but, he's off doing his solo thing now, and he's coming to Orlando on October 7th. The show, as it shows on Ticketmaster, is sold out, and this is a show that was actually postponed from the fall of 2020. And so existing ticket holders, people had bought tickets for the previous show and they'll be honored for the new show. And now come to find out that all those people who already have tickets will be required to either be fully vaccinated and show proof of that or have a negative COVID-19 test within 48 hours of the show. So this just came out yesterday, and that applies to all of his 40 show dates on this tour. And it's not just an Orlando thing specifically. So this was a policy that was implemented by the tour, not, Amway Center, the venue.
Yeah, I mentioned this will be the first at Amway. Am I correct to say that? Will this be the first show at Amway where they'll need vaccination proof?
That's correct. Yeah, I exchanged a couple emails with Kirk Wingerson yesterday. He's the marketing division manager for Orlando Venues, which oversees Amway Center. And he did confirm that this is the first show where that will be the case at Amway Center. Now, the venue has a packed calendar coming up, including, I know Santana's coming up a little bit later in September. James Taylor and Jackson Brown, they'll be coming to Amway Center on November 14th. And they've implemented a similar policy, except they require a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours of the show. So the window is just a little bit different there. And I should mention, as I spoke with Kirk as well, he said, these are just the first 2 concerts, but we may start to see more of these soon as other artists and tours start to, consider the health and safety of their fans. I'm sure part of that depends on what's happening with the Delta variant. But, as for Mr. Styles, this is his entire tour it applies to. And I should mention, too, this comes after Lollapalooza, the giant music festival in Chicago, known to attract hundreds of thousands of visitors. It went on recently, and out of all those visitors that they had, they also required vaccination or a negative test within 72 hours of the festival. Following the fest, they detected about 200 COVID-19 cases that were possibly linked to the festival out of a couple hundred, thousand attendees. So it seems like these policies seem to work. And I should mention as well, for this Amway Center concert, fans will be required to wear masks as well.
Yeah, what about those younger ones? Harry Styles, very popular, all age groups, younger viewers. What are they going to have to do?
You can imagine there will probably be a lot of kids in the audience. And so as for fans that are ages 12 and younger, as that is currently the vaccine cutoff, they will be required to show a negative test within 48 hours of the show and, wear masks as well.
All right. Well, appreciate that update. You can read about more as I get more information on that one and read about Harry Styles right now on OrlandoSentinel.com. We're going to stay with Patrick Connolly, but we're going to do his feature, Florida Fresh Air, and this time he went out to Eustis to the Trout Lake Nature Center. Let's talk about that one.
In order to get ideas for where to visit next, sometimes I'll just poke around, I'll scroll around Google Maps and I'll just, look at little places and I like star things on the map. So this one had been on my radar for a little while as a place I meant to get out to. It's in Eustis. It's on Trout Lake, right near US 19, kind of near the southern terminus of Ocala National Forest. So kind of getting out into some of, more wild Florida in north central Florida. But Trout Lake, it's a really nice 230 forested, nature preserve, 230 acres, I should say. And it has an education center. It has a museum. It's known for lots of programming and school field trips and educational things. So in terms of this place, outdoor education is really at the forefront. They have interpretive signs and a network of short trails that should be pretty accessible for most visitors. There's wood chips covering the surfaces, should be, nothing super challenging. But then you can go out onto a boardwalk. You can look over Trout Lake. And just as you go along, try to identify Florida flora and fauna, spot some birds, so it's a good place to kind of get a little dose of nature. And like I said, probably a good place to take the kids as well and probably learn something along the way.
Yeah, for the most part, this is just a walking park, would you say?
Right. There's no bikes allowed on the trails. However, leash pets are allowed on the trails, so you can bring your dog if you want. And, even as I stopped in the main education center of the building, a woman who works there, she said, there's trail maps over there, but it's really more of a stroll than a hike, which is mostly true. I think I was able to get in about a mile there, maybe a little more, but it is pretty fun. They have a few little narrow boardwalks you can go across. And also, I should say, one of the focal points of this park, other than, you can go to the lake and everything, one of the focal points is the grandfather oak, which you will actually see as you drive the driveway into Trout Lake Nature Center. This is a tree that is thought to be about 280 years old, but it's a pretty magnificent tree. And it's funny, they show a little interpretive sign near the tree that points to some of the rings. If they cut off a slice and they were kind of able to pinpoint how old it is. And they said, yeah, Thomas Jefferson was born whenever this tree was a seedling. So kind of to give you some context about just exactly how old this tree is.
That's really cool. All right, big question here. How many trout did you see?
I went out to the lake. I saw an anhinga, which is, otherwise known as a snake bird, perched there drying its wings. But, I didn't get in the water or anything. So I don't know if I saw any trout, but, I'm sure they're in there. Also, because this is sort of a more like a conservation area that's geared towards education, you cannot fish from here. However, it's a big enough lake that I'm sure if you were really eager to catch some trout in this lake, you could probably find another spot to fish from.
All right. Well, appreciate that update. You can read about his feature right now. Actually, past features right now. This one will release on Friday. You can keep an eye out for that one. But go ahead and stay with Patrick on those. Those are good features to read into. All right, one more thing ahead today. We have our weather report brought to you by Premier Sotheby's International Realty. Pumpkin spice everything seems to be popping up around town these days, but don't give up on those margaritas just yet. It's still summer. It is still hot. We're expecting a high of 87 degrees today, a low of 77 degrees. Afternoon thunderstorms also in the mix as usual. Currently here in Orlando, we are at 84 degrees. Today's sunset will be at 7:53. And setting up for a pleasant evening with high 70s, low 80s. Tomorrow, a tad hotter, breaking into the 90s with 91-degree high and light rain. But for today, a high of 87 degrees and those typical afternoon thunderstorms and scattered showers popping up in the region. All right, well, that's all our topics for today. Appreciate you being with us. Of course, if you like what we do, go ahead and subscribe. Go to orlandosentinel.com/subscribe. We really do appreciate that. Until next time, we're going to go ahead and push pause. I'm Rich, Patrick, and Austin. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.